In this video, I want to talk about one of my favorite books of David Hawkins, Power versus Force. This is also one of his earliest work, and it introduced a lot of the theories that he later expanded on. And interestingly, this is the one book that I found myself revisiting the most over time. So I really want to share some of my takeaways. And then in this video, I want to talk about the difference between Power versus Force, and also I want to touch on another topic which I think is very relevant in explaining the difference, and that is the concept of the law of attraction. You've probably heard of this before, and it's basically this concept that talks about how positive thinking leads to good things happening to life. But the thing with the law of attraction is that a lot of people apply this in the wrong way, and if you use it wrong, not only does it not work, it actually backfires and to make you believe this is just completely useless. I want to start by telling you the wrong way of using the law of attraction, and that is to think of very concrete scenarios of how your life will be or will unfold. The key word here is concrete, and the reason this doesn't work is because given the limitations and biases of our imagination, things rarely unfold exactly the way we imagine. But then when the imagination is too vivid, what's happening is that our subconscious would automatically do these reality checks against this vivid imagery, this picture, and for any deviation or details that don't match, it will record not matching as an information. So these are all registered as things not happening the way you want, and these are negative reinforcement. And remember, our subconscious cannot unthink a thing. Once it's in your mind, it's there forever, accumulating in the background. So in order to achieve positive reinforcement or turning these into true statements, it may seem as if a slightly more proper way of doing it is to only vaguely imagine the future, or just making everything directional. But practically speaking, it's difficult to control the level of fuzziness of our imagination. It's very easy to go overboard. So really, the right way of using the law of attraction is to focus on how you want to feel. And this is something that you can immediately find evidence in your life that you do have, and that becomes the positive reinforcement. So let's look at the subtle difference again. So to think that I will be looking like this, I will be talking like that, I will have such and such habit, is not as good of a way to use the law of attraction compared to thinkings such as I am the type of person that will behave this way in that kind of situation. I know I'm the type of person that treats people fairly. I'm the type of person that can rely on myself. And you see that the latter is more focused on the quality of the being, and it's less dependent on the external condition. That's why it's more likely to be self-evident. In a way, it all comes down to belief. So let's talk about power versus force. What is the difference? Here is a list of examples, and this is a subset of chapter 9 of the book where you can find the full list. And let's just pick one as an example: aware versus preoccupied. When someone is preoccupied on something, there's almost an underlying fear that if you don't obsessively think about the thing, you will lose control of it. In other words, just being aware of it is not enough. And this is what David means when he said a force always creates a counterforce, because if you think about it, this is really your subconscious signaling a disbelief, and the disbelief is that if you just let things happen naturally, you don't inherently believe that it will turn out the way you want. The thing about belief is that belief is something that you don't think about. It just runs in the background. A belief is like, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. You just know it, and you don't ever really think about it. You don't check every day and finding evidence. So if you find yourself constantly needing to justify or needing to validate something, that's a sign that deep down you don't actually trust that you either have it or are worth having it. And you may ask, what if there is something that I want to start believing in about myself, but I don't believe in right now? Well, the trick is that no amount of thinking or justification is going to build it into the belief system if it isn't there already. The only way is by taking actions. Only the act of change itself can have an influence on your subconscious. And in order to have actions, you need motivations. And that's why it's always easier to start from something that you already believe in. So like, what is something that you just know you're so good at that you don't really think about it most of the time? There are gotta be things that you just trust that will come naturally to you, that you will just get without having to grasp onto it, or things that you can just lead without having to coerce. So using this chart, you probably get what I'm saying. So everything in the second column is reflecting a disbelief, and what you should focus on are the things that you already have the confidence that you do have the power of. With all that being said, I do want to point out that it is natural for us to indulge in our imaginations. We do have this natural tendencies to want to grasp or control or calculate, and there's really nothing wrong with that. Nobody should feel bad about having these tendencies, because on one hand, it's our body's natural reaction, and on the other hand, it's also a result of what the society is telling us to do. There are some commonly held beliefs that we should really start to question. So for example, you might be taught that everything has to be earned, or struggle is supposed to be good for you, or that you are supposed to focus on what you don't have rather than what you do have. Otherwise, you won't have enough motivations to grow. Honestly, a lot of these are just programs feeding off people's natural fear in order to extract productivity or money or attention. And it's not necessarily that people who spread these opinions are evil or manipulative or anything. It's just a byproduct of people in society feeding off negative energies and perpetuating them without realizing the impact. With all these external forces, it's really not easy to stay moderate or neutral to maintain a powerful balance. It requires weeding out a lot of false information that serves no purpose other than to distract you. The way I always like to think about it is, let's imagine that we all live in a giant simulated game, and let's just say that we're all pre-programmed to have these survival functions. Similar to how we would program a machine or artificial intelligence to run within a certain set of rules, but not completely independent of our control. And if you just think about what would be the turning point for us, like what is the equivalent of us waking up to another layer of reality? And I think that that would be the realization that it's our default setting that tend to make us run in circles. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you're able to stay a bit detached to all the surface level information and more in tune with underlying patterns. And with that, I will conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I think this is a great topic, and I plan to do a few more videos to talk about the applications of power versus force in different areas of life, such as interpersonal relationship or finance, money, politics, and hopefully you will find it helpful. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.